Hi, I'm Kristen Amdahl with Red Heart Yarns. Today I want to show you how to crochet with Red Heart Boutique Ribbons yarn. You may or may not have seen yarn wound in skeins before. A lot of times yarn comes already wound in a ball and you're ready to just get started with your hook and start with your stitches. Sometimes though, yarn is presented in a skein form, which is also sometimes called a hank. And what that means is that the yarn is still in a big loop like this, and it's tied with secondary yarn so that it doesn't unravel. I remember the first time I worked with this yarn, I didn't have someone showing me what to do. And if you don't do this right, it's very easy to get wound into a big knot, and you can ruin the whole yarn. So it's important to just follow a few really simple steps to get it done right. So what you want to do is lay it out flat where you can see, and a good trick is to pull on these secondary strings to make sure that none of these strands are on the wrong side. Make sure that it's all the way inside the strands, and then what you want to do is lay it flat, snip the secondary yarn with some scissors like that, and then there's another one over here, and this one is actually tied to our Boutique Ribbons yarn. So what I want to do is snip the secondary yarn first, and then I'll cut it from our actual yarn ribbon. And what you want to do then is start to very loosely unravel it around the skein. Oh, there's one more secondary yarn here that was holding it from unraveling, or from getting tangled. So we're going to snip that one as well. And this one is tied to the other end of the continuous strip of yarn. So we'll just cut that one off as well. But we're going to work with the one I already started pulling. And if you notice, it's coming from the bottom side of the skein. Don't worry about flipping it over at this point, because if you work gently, you can actually just pull it from around. Now, you could work this into a ball. Sometimes that works with yarn in this way, but because it's a flat ribbon, what'll happen is if it twists up on itself too much when you're winding it into a hand ball, it's not going to be easy to crochet with. So what we like to do is take a recycled paper towel roll and just start winding it right on here like that. And that way you're keeping the yarn nice and flat, which is going to give you a great setup for when you start crocheting with it. And this works equally as well if you were going to be knitting with it too. So what we're going to do is just keep winding this around. And that was the bit that I had already pulled forward. Now what I like to do is give myself a little bit of headway by pulling the yarn first and then winding it, because then you're only doing one thing at a time. And see how it's twisting on itself? I want to make sure I stop that from happening as I'm winding it around. Like that. And then you could go down, back, and what you want to do is do that until you have the entire skein on your paper towel holder like this. Now, if you were going to stop at this point and not start your project, I would recommend taking a rubber band or some other type of a stretchy item to hold this in place so it doesn't unravel. And then when you're ready to get started, like for example, I'm going to work on the Angelina scarf today, and that uses the 6mm hook, and I'm just going to unravel a bit of the yarn off of my holder. And now to get started on this, it's different than how you would normally work with a yarn. And that's because we have our flat ribbon portion that we're never going to touch with our hook. We're only going to work in this top section, which is called a ladder section of the ribbon. And we're going to start 6 inches in. And I kind of think that each one of these sort of represents an inch, so I'm going to start in the 7th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we're going to insert our hook right into that ladder hole at the top of the yarn, and for the first row we're going to skip one ladder and then chain by inserting our hook into the next ladder and pulling that through the other one that's on our hook. So there's chain 1. Skip a ladder, insert into the next ladder, pull through chain 2, skip one, insert, pull through, chain 3, skip one, insert, pull through, chain 4, skip one, insert, pull through, chain 5, and that's when we have to start pulling our yarn again. Just a little bit at a time is fine. And then we're going to skip one, pull through, chain 6, or chain 5. And look at, we've already got our ruffle beginning. So now what we're going to do is a chain 1, which is what we normally do at the beginning of a row, by just inserting into the very next ladder, like that. There's our chain 1. Now if you turn your work and you look at the top side above the ruffle, those little tiny threads from the ladder, you can sort of see that there's the top of our chain stitches. And what we're going to do is skip that chain 1, insert our hook into the next stitch, which is the V, like the top of a chain or a stitch, and we're going to work a single crochet there. And how I'm going to do that is working into 2 ladders side by side. We've got our first step of a single crochet, which is to insert your hook into the stitch, pull up a loop. You've got 2 loops on your hook, insert your hook into the next ladder and pull through 2, like that. So we'll do that again. We look into the next top V along the chain row, insert our hook, pull up a loop in the next ladder through 1 loop on the hook. So now you have 2 loops on the hook. Insert our hook into the next ladder and pull through 2. And we'll do that across this row. And this would be our first row, which is working single crochets into the starting chain. And on the following row, we're going to work single crochets into a row of single crochet, and it's basically the same as this. Let me just finish this one here. Okay, there's our row of single crochet at the top of the ruffle, which you can see there's those sideways V's. Just like in regular single crochet, the only difference is we actually have to place the wraps of our stitches in those ladders in specific places rather than just arbitrarily along the yarn. So we're going to insert our hook into the first, if we did a chain 1, insert our hook into the first stitch, pull up a loop in the next ladder, and then pull up a loop in the next ladder and pull through both loops. And there's your single crochet in the top of a single crochet. Couple tips to remember. First of all, every row is going to be the same throughout the rest of the scarf now. The only other thing to consider is how easy this is to unravel. For some reason, this is very easy to unravel. So let's say you have to set your work down for some reason. What I would suggest you do is take a little stitch marker, a split ring stitch marker, which is the kind that has the hole and the little hook on one end like that, and see how it splits. So if you were going to set this work down, what you want to do is insert the split ring like that, and that'll hold your stitch in place that doesn't unravel. And just to show you how serious I am about this, look what happens if you don't. There's all my stitches, they're gone already. So you want to be really careful that you put that stitch marker in there before you set your work down. With a ribbon like this, you're not going to fasten off in the traditional way that you fasten off other yarns at the end of your project, or even weave in your ends the same way you would in a regular project. What you want to do is at the end of your last stitch, you want to take a sewing needle and a matching colored thread and tack down the last stitch, and then take that long end. Remember we had 6-inch tail at the beginning of the project? What you want to do is kind of tuck that down in between your ruffles and then sew it in place. And that's how you weave in the ends. You can check out the Angelina scarf pattern and many more on the website, so check it out at redheart.com.